Hi everyone, this is Simon from Horoma Studio. Today we're going to have a look at this really cool product image that was done again for a challenge, like Lancia Stratos, sorry. So let's get started. Well, as you can see, the image is of really high quality. There are some minor stuff I think we can talk about that can be enhanced, but first, I think it's interesting to start in terms of composition and see how the image works, which is quite nice. So the first thing, in terms of composition that is nicely done is this sort of, there are several shapes that serves the composition that is quite nice. So you have this sort of big block with the black here that sort of makes it stand out, and the overall like the product or the car basically here. There's also, in terms of like the juxtaposition, that is quite nice with this thing, the Amazon cardboard or box here that is just next to the car, so that you understand that it comes from here, which is like just in terms of like logic and the way you read the image is extremely powerful and yet extremely simple. So this is quite nice. In terms of colors as well, there's something that is quite efficient, is that you have like this sort of blue with like here you have the same one. The green that is behind is toned down. I think it's a GRI though, because like junction is maybe not that good. And then the good thing is that the only, if we look at the saturation, you can see that the most saturated part is this one. That's what I was wondering, is like maybe, either way, this maybe could be saturated a little bit less, but it's fine. But this one here makes it like, since it's the most saturated part, it is central in the composition. And in terms of hue, it's, if you look at, hue, you can see that this is like really contrasting from like the rest of the bluish concrete floor that we have. So this is really cool. There's this guy here, but the thing is like basically red and yellow, but I think red is like way more powerful, is like the way to catch the people attention. So the funny thing is that in one way or another, we're actually looking at this first, sort of. But this is catching the eye more than this, which is quite fun. But it doesn't matter here because we're talking about a product. It's not as if like you had a building and you had something red next to it, which means you would look at this red thing rather than the building. Here the good thing is that the red thing is right on top of the subject, so it doesn't matter. If we look now at the thing that I think are slightly more of an issue, I would say there's something like, I'm 99% sure this is HDRI, and I think the junction is a bit problematic because basically you can see that the blur, there's like the depth of field effect is slightly weird, and the junction is not, like, you can see that there's some issue. So I think it's like it could be easily fixed by maybe just having, maybe the shape is not exactly the right one, maybe also, because you can see that you have this sort of like gravel thing, and then suddenly you have this concrete thing, and you don't really read exactly what's happening. Like you can see the difference here. So maybe it was just a matter of like actually covering a little bit more to get a better transition. I think another issue also is here you can see there's something weird happening again with the depth of field that is extremely, it looks like as if it was done in post-production. So because you should have, especially for like such what's the word, a discrepancy of focus, the feathering here should be much more important, I think. So, and I think like it's especially striking because there's almost a little bit too much sharpening happening here, whereas here it's, the discrepancy is a bit too much. Here this is nice that the box is slightly out of focus. There's a bit of anti-aliasing here, which might but it's fine. Which helps because it means that this is slightly out of focus. This is perfectly in focus. So it means that the focus is on the actual point of interest. So that's good. I think there's something slightly annoying with I mean, look, the model itself is nice, but you can see that everything is like the displacement map is maybe a little bit too much. It's like you can see all those like little triangles that you get when you don't, when it's not exactly like when you're using what's the word? When the value you're using is slightly too high compared with like what it was supposed to be. The other thing I think, but I don't know, I think it's okay when you look at it like that, but if you zoom in slightly, you can see that the chromatic aberration that we have in some part is a little bit too much. So I would be careful with it, but I think it's just because I'm zooming in way too much. Beside that, in terms of the model itself, I think was given, but either way, this is a really nice model, and you have like, when you're doing like close-ups like that, you need all those small details. And also if you look at the texturing, this is quite nice. The plastic or of the body here is quite nice. Here as well. There's one thing I think, but I'm always looking at the same thing, so that's why I always notice it. But you can see that the what's the word? The wheels are textured exactly the same. So it means that you're getting exactly the same dirt maps and blah 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 on the same thing. So even though this is definitely not catching the attention, it's always good, like if you want to add like this extra type of realism, extra layer of realism, is to like texture each wheel individually, which is a lot of work, but well, that's what it takes, I guess. I think it's fine, because we could talk about like the fact that this is like completely worn out and the rest is clean, but I think it's fine because it's still like pretty realistic in that aspect, so it's good. Anything else that I could mention? I think I really don't know. Yeah, this maybe. There are like small details that are, this is actually, I wouldn't keep it. I know it's like completely random, and basically when you have like super bright information in areas of the image that is not where you want your viewer to look at, you should get rid of it. So here, like if we look at where is it? Threshold, you can see that this is still like staying here. What is this? This is interesting, but yeah, basically you try to avoid like keeping bright spots or bright areas. This is okay because it's maybe finer and you can understand that this is like graffiti, so it's maybe different, this maybe not. So yeah, I think beside that there's not much to say. It's really, really good image, really convincing. There's just, yeah, this thing about the texture of the concrete that is, I think, but it's really like just a tiny bit, but I think it's a little bit overdone, the displacement, and I think the sharpening is a little bit too intense. You can like sharpen here, but I think there are areas where the sharpening is a little bit too intense, and it's just, yeah, really this DOF that is, I think, not the most convincing. And I think once you sort of solve the depth of field effect properly, you would get a better transition from the backplate to your actual model. So yeah, but beside that, really, really cool image. So I'll stop there. I hope you've learned some interesting topics to sort of keep your eyes on for your next images, and I'll see you in the next teardown. Cheers, guys. Bye.